Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today's daf is daf Vov. We start from daf Heyom at Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. We had a big machlokes Tanoim. Who brings the Par Helm Davish al Tzibur? Reb Meir says Bezdin. Reb Shimon says Bezdin and the Shvatim that did the Aveda. And Reb Yehuda says even Shvatim that didn't do the Aveda also have to bring it. So we had 3 main opinions amongst the Tanoim. The following Bryce is going to be a kasha on Reb Meir that it cannot be Bezdin brings the Par Helm Davish al Tzibur. Says the Gemara, Tanya, 3 lines at the bottom. Tanya, Reb Shimon Noimer, Reb Shimon says, by the karbonos of the Miluim that the Levium brought, it says over there, Par Sheni ben Bakar, Tikach Lechatas. They had to bring one for an oila, right? One par for an oila, one for a chatas. So asks the Gemara, Tani Reb Shimon Omer Matam with Lemer Par Sheni ben Bakar, Tikach Lechatas. Why does it have to say the word Sheni? Im Lamet Shem Shnayim. If you're going to teach me that there were 2 parim, I already know it's 2 parim because it says one for a chatas, one for an oila. Elo why does it say sheni? Because without sheni, I would have thought necheles chatas lalavim. Right, all the chatois are eaten by the zichrei kahuna. Yeah, so maybe I would have thought that over here also it's a chatas, a regular chatas that's eaten by the Zichrei Kuna Tamid Lomer Par Sheni La'oila. It's telling you it's Sheni La'oila, comparing it to an oila. Ma oila le'necheles, av chatas lo'necheles. This chatas was different than every other chatas. It had to be burnt b'chutz lamachna, like a chatas apnimis, and like an oila which is kolel ala mizbeach. It's kolel Hashem. Kayoytze boy omer Rabbi Yosi. So the Bryce is mamshech. Rabbi Yosi also says, with regard to the karbonis that the Oilei Bavel brought when they were Choyzer Yerushalayim b'mei Ezra, it says over there, Haboyim Shivi b'nei Yagoy lekriva Oiles lekei Yisrael parim shnei masar, that Klal Yisrael brought 12 parim. Hakoil Oila, they were all Oila. What does it mean Hakoil Oila salkadaitich? What do you mean? Do you think they were called Hakoil Oila? Lamaisa, they brought Siri Izam Lachatas for serving Avodah Zarah. So that was a chatas, not an oila. So efsher shechatas oila, how can a chatas be an oila? Ela hakoil oila, which means ma oila lenecheles, av chatas lenecheles. The chatas of oilei bavel, they were makriv and they returned to Yerushalayim. They also didn't eat just like the oila. The Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda says, al avodas kechavim hevium. They brought it for Avodah Zarah, and any chatas that's brought for Avodah Zarah is not eaten like a regular chatos. It has to be burnt legamre, and it has to be taken mechutz lamachna and burnt legamre. V'omer Rav Yehuda Shmuel, and if Yehuda Shmuel says these karbonas that the oilei bavel brought for avodas kechavim, it wasn't for their own aveda of avodas kechavim. The chet in bavel was assimilation. It wasn't because they served avodah zarah. They didn't serve avodah zarah in bavel. So why did they bring a chet? Why did they bring a par and a soyer to be mechaper for avodah zarah? It was a labaris chavish also b'meitzid kiyo. The last king of Yehuda before the Churban, that generation served avodah zarah before they went to Bavel. So Mamela, they brought it for their ancestors to be mechaper for their ancestors. So the Gemara asks as follows: Bishloim Rabbi Yehuda mishkachas la lahani shnei maseh chatois. I can understand according to Rabbi Yehuda you brought 12. Why? Because he holds going to chatu shnei maseh shvatim, the ma'aseh shnei maseh seirim. Each shevet has to bring their own, so that's why there's 12 in the pasuk. Inami the chatu shiva shvatim v'sharit nech begreira. He says even the shvatim that didn't do the aveda also have to bring a korban. Shul la'achad shol. Reb Shimon nami mishkachas la going to chatu achad as shvatim. According to Reb Shimon, that he holds that only the shvatim that did the aveda bring a par. So according to Reb Shimon, here, right here. The big one, right here, for you. Oh, have it, tagadol. Yeah. So we're up to, in middle of a brisa, like maybe 10 or 12 lines on the top. Vav Amud Aleph. We're trying to figure out why there were 12 parim that the Oilei Bavel brought. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, no problem. Each Each shevet brought their own par, either because they did the Aveder, or even if they didn't do it, they're nigra, they're dragged into it by the other Shvatim that did the Aveder. Well, Reb Shimon, according to Reb Shimon, then only the Shvatim that did the Aveder bring a Korban. Nami Mishkachas Lakagon, Dechatu Achados Shvatim. Let's say 11 out of the 12 did the Aveder. The Mais Achados Asirim, and plus Bezdin, V'iduch the Bezdin. That's Reb Shimon's Shita. The Bezdin has to bring it. So you have 12 by 11 plus the Bezdin, which is 12. Eller Reb Meir, but according to Reb Meir, Da'am Bezdin Bavim V'Loi Tzibur, Shnei Mosech Mishkachas Lei. Yes, so the Gemara wants to know, you hear this? The Gemara wants to know, according to Rabbi Meir, who brings a parel am davar shel tzibur? Ya 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 ma ya 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 Lefum tzara agra. Lefum tzara agra. As I'm celebrating, it's not easy for Pesach to make it, to come. It's very hard for him. It's certain hardships, certain challenges. So we celebrate Pesach's arrival. Lefum tzara agra. Pesach ashrecho. That koydim Rosh Hashanah should be a schus, ksiv v'chesed toivet to you. Yirtzeh Hashem. Not just asking about parnosa, it's more, it's deeper than that. Talk about it offline. Okay. Gemara wants to know, Meir says, Mi mevi par helem dover shel tzibur. Al mi lahavi et zeh. Who has to bring it? Reb Meir says, only Bezdin. Hakal Bezdin. So the Gemara wants to know, how could it say ba'olei bovel? There were 12 parim. Which 12? Rabbi Meir says, even if Gans Klal Yisrael does the Aveira, only one, only Bezdin brings it. How do you reconcile that brisa with the Pasuk and Ezra? Yeah, it was Purim Shnei Moser. According to Rabbi Meir, it's only one. Says the Gemara, really Bezdin is the one that brings it. But you know what happened in this case? Bezdin made 12 mistakes. So for each mistake, they have to bring. They made a mistake, they retracted. They made a mistake and they reversed the psak. They made a mistake, they reversed the psak. 12 times, that's why you have 12 according to Rabbi Meir.
This time we have to replace the baby.
We have to replace this Bezdin. You gotta replace the Bezdin.
12 mistakes.
They're fired. Yeah.
12 mistakes.
Oy vavoy, oy vavoy. Now the Gemara wants to know.
ויהי בימי שפוט השופטים.
B'moy shvot hashoftim.
שופטים את השופטים.
Shoftim et hashoftim. Such a zach. Now the kasha is.
Yes, today.
What is it today? What's today?
שפוט השופטים.
Yeah. The judges also have an agenda. The judges also have an agenda.
מה אנחנו אומרים כל יום? החזיר השופטנו כי בראשונה.
Yes.
bring it back like זה באמת שרק באמת
Shiva Shaltei.
You know?
Gewaltig.
Abraham Lincoln release.
Okay. Lamaisa, why they brought a par for themselves because they did avodah zarah? The Gemara says no. They brought a par because lefnei Churban Bovel, b'mei Tzidkiyahu, the last king of Yehuda, their ancestor did the aveda. Could you bring a korban for a mace? They already died. Gemara asks, "V'hamaisalu hana dechati." It's already 70 years later. Shivim shnois galus Bovel. They're returning after the Churban. And they're coming back. In the Halacha L'Moshe Messina, we know that chatos shemesu baleo psula. You can't bring a chatos that somebody wanted to.
אלא אם כן, they made a tzava because the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed.
Okay.
And they couldn't
bring it, but they died. They died.
Okay,
So you can't bring.
Why? because צוואת המת. Please, ברגע שיהיה עוד פעם אפשרות.
אבל הלכה למשנה אסור, זה חולן לעזור, אסור להביא חטוס שמייסו בעלה, זה הלכה למשנה סיני.
The chet goes on for 4 dollars.
Okay.
So they had to eliminate the chet, so they themselves wouldn't have a srach of the chet in their own cells because it goes for 4 dollars.
It's terrible that they're punished for it, but there's no kapara. You can't bring a korban chatas. It's against the Torah. The Torah doesn't allow to bring a korban chatas. Can't bring a chatas that the owner died. Nobody can bring it for him. Chatas shemesu balel is psula, right? You have to let it graze until you have to leave it to die. So the Gemara wants to know, how could the people who came back from Bavel, how could they have brought the padhel and davar for each shevet that sinned before the Churban and the B'mei Tzidkiyahu? It doesn't make sense. Omer Rav Papa says, no. Ki gmiri chata shemesu b'aleh b'misa hanemila b'yachid. When does the halacha l'mesh Sinai that you cannot bring a chata shemesu b'aleh? That's only b'yachid. Aval b'tzibur, that loy b'tzibur. If she'ein misa b'tzibur, you hear this lashon? If she'ein mita b'tzibur. Yeah, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, he explains it. He says tzibur is a new entity. New entity. It's not, tzibur is not comprised of a bunch of yechidim. You could technically say the tzibur is also a bunch of yechidim, right? So just like by a yochid you say chata shemesu b'aleh, you can't bring the chatos. Say it by a tzibur because it's just a bunch of yechidim. It's 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. Zuk Rabbi Shanein. Tzibur is a new entity. So Mamela, that entity of Am Yisrael is lanetzach. It never dies. So Mamela, by a tzibur, chatos shemesu b'aleh, a chatos shel tzibur, a parallel of tzibur, that you could still bring even after some of the people died. It's like what?
Like benching, you say Elokeinu.
Yeah.
Once you have 10 people,
You want this or you want the red one?
then you have the schus. Say Elokeinu, you have schus to say kedusha.
Aha. Yes.
Ain't kedusha pachas me'asar.
Yeah.
So kedusha is chal once you have 10 people. So
Beautiful.
You reach a threshold.
Yeah. Once you have that, then that's chalois kedusha. Here, Rabbi Chavi, you could sit over here. There's room over here.
Okay, fine. What I'm looking for is a Gemara.
A Gemara. All the Gemaras are piled up over there, right there in the back, behind Pesach.
Yeah. you can
The
buy
red
this.
Gemaras right there. No, he's got right there.
He said he wants the
Yeah.
red one.
Oh, you want the big one?
No, he wants English.
He wants English.
No, I
He's
don't
not
want
Eng-
English.
Ah.
Here.
Oh, you have Hebrew right there. Okay. Frag die Gemara, minole le Rav Papa ha. How does Rav Papa know that by a tzibur, even after some of them die, you could still bring the chatas? Where does he know this from? Which means the children stand b'mokim the father. You know, Rav Shaul just gave Kiddush to Shabbos. He said, whatever he accomplished, the fact that he's learning Torah is credit to his father. So Mamela, he wanted to give it a schus to his father. L'fnei
Gemara,
Yom
what
Adin.
is it? Oh, Vav.
Vav and Aleph.
Okay. Okay,
Then
fine.
Karei Abu.
Yeah, tachas avisecha yiyu b'necha, and that's why the people who came back from Bavel were the sons of the people who did the Aveda. So a son could bring it for a father and be mechaper for a father. So why is that only by
I'll give
tzibur?
you another oracha.
Okay.
The person didn't know that his father passed away, and then 6 months later they told him he has to shiv shiva.
Right.
Even after 6 months.
Ma'alacha. He has to sit shiva even after 6
shiva,
months.
yeah.
But mishosh sheshama,
שלא שמע, עכשיו פתאום הודיעו לו.
עכשיו ששמע, it doesn't matter how long passed.
לשבת שבעה, yeah.
It happened with
No, 7 days or 1 day.
לא, שבעה ימים.
Rabbi Ruderman, the mashkiach at
No, I'm Meshkech, the
There Yisrael.
Right, he's the-
when his father was nifted, the mashkiach, I think it was Sabatka.
Yeah.
I want to tell him because he made a commitment to finish Shas.
Yeah.
But I was afraid if he told him that he had to sit Shiva, he wouldn't learn, he wouldn't fulfill his commitment. So he-
Wow, they didn't tell him.
They didn't tell
How long, for a year?
Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Then after I told him.
So here we are.
Then he said shiva.
I would think it was after the Shiva.
Menole le Rav Papa ha.
What?
So how does Rav Papa know this halacha?
I'm just telling
It doesn't matter when.
That Chatas Tibur is kosher even after the Bailam died. That some of them died. Ilam in the Chsiv Tachas Avasecha Yu Benecho, if you know it from Tehillim, where it says that the sons take the place of the father, Yachafilu b'Yachad Nami. So by Yachid, if you have a son trying to bring the carbon of his father, even though it's a Yachid, it's not a carbon Tibur, should also work. Because the Svar is, the son takes the place of the father. Eladuki Rav Papa Misoyer the Rish Chaydish. He really knows it from Soyer of Rish Chaydish. By the way, Soyer of Rish Chaydish is really the only carbon, or one of the only carbonas, that is a Chatas Tzibur. Right? It's a Chatas Tzibur that you bring every Rish Chaydish. Remember we learned in Shavuos, I think it's Daf Tes, the Gemara says, it's Chatas La Hashem. Right? The Gemara wants to know, what did Hashem do? What did Hashem do wrong?
Right.
It was Mamaita Levana, yeah?
Yeah.
Soyer of Rish Chaydish has nothing to do with the Egel. It's completely different.
Kadosh
Kadosh Baruch is Ma'at Yerach. Yeah, we saw that in Gemara and Shavuos over there. But the Lamaisa, it's a Chatas Tzibur. Tosfos says, Avad, that's not because of that. Over there, I don't remember Tosfos brings them. But it's a Chatas Tzibur. And what do you see from here? From the fact you could bring every Rosh Chodesh a Chatas Tzibur, yeah? How could you bring a Chatas Tzibur? The Omer Achmona, the Torah says bring a Rosh Chodesh, a carbon soil for a Chatas of Rosh Chodesh. Maisi, Betrumas Alishka. You bring it from Trumas Alishka, so everybody's paying for it. V'mais Lumi Yisrael. That month, people died, right? So when do you donate for the chatas of Tzibur of Rosh Chodesh? Once a year. Yeah, they raise money once a year for all the karbanos tzibur. Echad ba'ader mashmin al hashgalah.
Other.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's when you fundraise,
Right.
and then from Nisan till the next Nisan, you use whatever you fundraise to buy the Tmidin, the Musafin, the Soyer Rosh Chodesh, all of that, right?
Right.
So some of those people who donated for that Soyer of Rosh Chodesh, they're gonna die that year, and still you could bring it. So to Rav Papa, from here you see by a korban tzibur, even if some people who paid for it and they need a kapara of that korban who died and they died, you could still go forward and bring the korban. So,
ציבור, גם המתים צריכים כפרה.
oh,
כי זה בדיוק מסתדר.
כן.
שגם החיים גם החיים והמתים נידנים בראש השנה. מפה אנחנו, כי הם ציבור.
yes,
הם חלק מהציבור.
yeah. We'll see again. There's another Gemara also that backs up what you're saying. Yeah, you see over here that they do mesim need a kapara even if they die.
Yeah.
Ma'aseh Misrov, Hanach the Nafesh, the Fasha Hecha Ma'asi. Those people who died that year after donating for the Karbonas Tibur, they need the kapara. So if they died, how could you bring it? That a chatas shel tzibur, that some of the tzibur died, you could still be makar of the carbon, no problem. So the Gemara says, that's how Rav Papa learns it. Me dummy. Is it really similar? Mi dummy soirish chodesh dilmul le'maisem mi tzibur. Aval vade maisu. Over there it's a suffix. We don't know if they died. Yes, maybe not. But over here by Oile Bavel, they were makriv for the door of Tzidkiyahu. After they came back, they for sure died. It's a vade that they died. So maybe when they vade died, then you cannot bring the chatas if they vade died. What do you say, doctor?
No, it's more than 70 years.
It's more than 70 years. Yeah. What was the lifespan back then? I'm not sure, but.
David Amel said.
Meshon Hussein b'm Shevim Shana. Yeah, very good.
I heard a shocking thing.
You're gonna.
Did you say this? I heard a shocking thing that Rav Marin Cutler said so. Was nifter at 70.
Is that true?
I don't.
69.
Yeah.
16. Wow.
Shemata on it?
69.
Wow.
He looks much older in the
No,
photos.
he died 69.
Wow.
Wow. I didn't know that. I just assumed he lived much longer.
Yeah.
than
No, I
that.
thought it was that.
Yeah.
El time the Papa Malach the Chsiv Kaper, but the Egla Arufa it says that the Kahanim declared and they said Kaper la Amcho Yisrael Asher Padisa Hashem. Hashem, when they brought the Egla Arufa, they asked Hashem their mispalo, please forgive your nation Am Yisrael Asher Padis Hashem, that you redeemed them from where? From Mitzrayim. The kapara of the Egla Arufa in Eretz Yisrael was mechaper for the Yotzei Mitzrayim. Now, none of the Yotzei Mitzrayim were alive, right? Actually, only two. The Gemara said only two survived. Yeshua ben Nikola ben Yefuna, right? Everybody had died. The whole Yotzei Mitzrayim. Medechsiv Asher Padisa. Now, those are the ones that were redeemed, and the Egla Arufa hundreds of years later was mechaper for them. So, what do you see from here? That a chatos shel tzibur shemesu ba'aleo kreva, it could work even afterwards. By the way, the Sefer Hasidim writes from here, mamish this Gemara, this Rav Papa, this drasha of Kaper la'amcha Yisroel Asher Padisa Hashem, you learn from here is where the minig comes from, that you give tzedakah Erev Yom Kippur for the Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur gives tzedakah for the mesim, because mesim can have a kapara even after they go from this world. Wow. And I mamish find it so appropriate what you said, Reb Shol. You said Sifrei Chaim v'Sifrei Mesim Psuchim on Rosh Hashanah, so Mamela they need also zchuyot, and that's why you made the siyum.
So they can suffer
in memory of your father.
So
it's
they
beautiful.
Can suffer even.
Mamish sigyatenu.
Wow.
Mamish.
Ooh, wow.
So the Gemara says, "Mi dami hasam kulu isinon." Now the Gemara is going to change. You can't compare it to Egla Arufa. Why? Because Hasam Kulu Isunin. Over there, which is over there. Where's over there? Over there, you have living people. You had the whole dar that brings an Egla Arufa. Lamaisa, they're mechuyev to bring the carbon, and they're alive. And the Ikar Kapara is for them. So there you could say Migdal Mechaper Achayim, Mechaper Nami Amesim. Once you have the Kapara on Chayim, so now it could work also on Mesim. But here the ganze kapara was for who? For a generation gone by. A generation, the whole kapara should be chal on dead people, the ganze generation is dead, and now you want to bring a kapara for them? By Egla, roof of the kapara is for us, we're alive, and we're including the mesim of Yitzias Yotzei Mitzrayim.
So
But
what
over
does that mean?
here,
That means that there's some people who are nifter. They
yeah.
have to have a gilgul to be able to come back and be machaper on the
No,
things
no, no,
that
no,
they
no, no,
did.
no, no, no. You're
I'm
going
asking-
into Soidas HaTorah. We're not going to
But I'm
Gugula.
asking if that's, in other words, the things that we do can be schus for them, right?
Yeah, that's
so,
all.
So
So,
maybe no,
it's a
maybe
kapara for them.
The things that we do, the learning we do, the mitzvahs we do, the tzedakah that we give can be misaken some things so that perhaps they won't even need to come back.
Okay,
I'm
Mirz Hashem.
asking.
Mirz Hashem.
I'm asking a question.
I don't have an answer to that, but this is not what the Gemara is.
I read Rashi. Rashi is
Ma Rashi Kotev?
explain that.
That
He
what?
says what?
כן. כתוב רש"י אומר ככה. אבל כתוב שם, שדיברנו על יוצאי מצרים, נכון?
Yeah.
אז הוא אומר ככה. דהיינו יוצאי מצרים, אבל אך הם מי אהבו חיים, אנה דורו של צדקיהו, נכון? הוא אומר, ודילמה מיעוטי אהבו, והי כתיב, ורבים מהכהנים והלוויים, דילמה מיעוטי דציבור דבית שני אהבו. ואני זוכר שחלק בכו וחלק שמחו, נכון? ואהבו לחטאת שמתו רוב בעליה, ולא קרבה, כמו שאמרת, נכון? ואח הכתיב, שכתוב וקרבה, שהקריבו, נכון? והלא מצית אמרתי מיעוט אהבה, אלא ודאי רבים אהבו.
Okay, you're going a little further. You're going a little further. That's the Gemara's going to say.
אינם מכירים כל תורת השמחה לכל בכי עם, אותם דבוכים מדור של בית ראשון היו. ושאלה שלא מכירים, שלא ידעו מה
Which
שהיה.
means there were people alive. That's the Gemara saying now.
הדור הקודם, אז לכן הם יכלו להביא את
That's it.
הקורבן.
That's exactly right. Gemara is going to answer that actually when they came back from Bavel, there were a lot of people still alive from Doyer Shel Tzedkiyahu. And Mamela, the par or the parim that they brought to be mechaper on that Dor of Tzedkiyahu, those people, many of those people were still alive. I guess they had a long life because it was 70 years.
Some of them
So,
were 10 years, 15 years, they lived to
Yes, and they were, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And Echanam B'chsiv, Rab Ma'konim Alvin Rosh Avos. Mor says maybe it was just a little bit of people. How do you know it was Rabbim?
לא, רבים, הוא אומר
Dilam what Navi v'loy Rab Ma'abes says the Gemara. No, Ksiv Einam Makinim Kol Truas Simcha L'Kol B'Chiyam V'Kol Nishma Ad Lamerachai. Those who were crying overpowered the call of Simcha. Yeah? And so you see the people who were crying were the people of the Zkanim that were still alive from before the Churban. So they were outnumbering the people who are young and were born in Bavel and didn't do Avodah Zarah. So Mamela, when we say over there that they were able to bring a par for each shevet to be mechaper in the Avodah Zarah of the previous generation, it was their generation, it was that generation because the Rabbim were still alive.
Ezra brought that to
Yerushalayim, yes.
yeah, because Ezra brought back only the muchas. The ones who were not muchas, the ones who
They stayed in
were
Bavel.
married, he wouldn't allow them to
לא,
come back.
opposite.
The one who assimilated, you mean?
opposite.
The assimilated one, he
opposite.
Okay, for that, yeah.
opposite.
Yeah, he brought the people who had some kind of a pagam.
Yeah.
He brought them to
Tzurus.
Eretz Israel
Yeah, Tzurus.
and left the people who were, who were zach in Babel.
בבל, yeah.
so why would they
כי הוא אמר, כי ארץ ישראל תכפר.
Yeah.
בגלל זה הוא אמר, ארץ ישראל תכפר.
That's what I
תצרף
thought.
אותם.
Keep on.
Ah.
That's what I thought.
Okay, we have to know Ezra for that. We have to know the whole story, but
So
it
it
seems like
actually-
we have people who know Tanakh.
So it's where
Yeah.
does it say this? That the fact that they brought them to Eretz Israel helped to be a kapara for the pagam that they each of them had. Yes, that's what you're saying.
הגמרא בקידושין שאומרת שעשה אותה כנפה נקייה. הוא ניקה.
Which daf? Do you know?
הוא עשה חוסים, אני חושב פי.
Aha.
לוק פי, לוק.
Daf pay.
לוק דף פי, אני think דף פי.
I'm learning that. I'm learning Kedusha now.
קידושין.
Yeah.
Okay, so look it up. Answer. Okay, fine. So the Gemara asks another kasha now. So one second. What is the bottom line? So the bottom line is that when Rav Papa is mechalik between chatas shemesu ba'alel, between a yochid and a tzibur, he says by tzibur it's not mesu. We're still makriv a chatas shel tzibur that the bailam died. If some of the people died, some of the tzibur died, you could still bring that chatas. Okay, ask the Gemara. 1 second. These people who did avodah zarah b'doyer shel tzedkiyahu, were they a shoygig or a mezid? V'hamezidin havu. Frag the Gemara, they were amazed. How can you bring a carbon chatas for amazed? Heichen metzinu carbon chatas b'mezid. Yeah, answers the Gemara. You're right. We don't find the carbon chatas b'mezid. Hayruas shah haysa. It was Hayruas shah. Bezdin paskin. The only time probably in history where, we brought a carbon chatas on aveda of b'mezid. There's another exception also, by the way. If you remember, Shavuos.
What?
Shavuos. The first daf in Shavuos, first daf in the Mishnah, the Shavuos says that the soyer pnimi of Yom Kippur is mechaper on a mezid of Tumas Mikdash v'Kedashav. Yeah, so you see, and that was a chatos. So that's also a case, but that's in the Torah. Other than that, we don't find the chatos on a mezid. Over here, one time in history, a Rosh Shah, where they said bring a chatas for the aveda of avodah zarah b'mezid before the korban. Yeah, it's also mistabed that these karbonas were yotzim and aklal, was an exception, it was a one-off. Because if you're not going to say that, it's going to be difficult to understand the types of karbonas they brought. It says elam tisha v'shisha kvasim shivim v'shiva keneged me. Why did they bring that? That's not usually what you bring a carbon chatas from. Yeah, usually a carbon chatas is brought from a par and a soyer.
Yeah.
Especially for avodah zarah. Why they're bringing kvasim and elam? So it must be that this was an exception. So this was Rosh Shah.
Excuse me. They bring for avodah zarah. They bring what from
A par and a soyer.
Par and a sar.
And over here it
Oh,
says.
right. Okay. All right. So the korban pesach. What's that?
Not Pesach. They brought a par and a
Korban pesach.
No, it doesn't say anything carbon Pesach here.
No, I know. It's
Yeah.
the getchka of the mitzvah.
Okay.
That's why. That's
Yeah, but the Torah, when the Torah says you need a kapara for avodah zarah,
right. Okay. So
you bring a par and a sar.
okay.
And here they also brought elam and kvasim. So must be this was a one-off. This was an exception.
Yeah.
So the Gemara weiter. Tonu Rabbanan. Okay, we're Baruch Hashem. We're going on. Where are we? We are on like 6 to 8 lines in the bottom of Davav Med Aleph. Tonu Rabbanan. We're doing a brisa now. Meis echad min hatzibur. If one of the tzibur died before they were able to bring the carbon, chayovin, you still bring the carbon. Even though part of the tzibur died, one of the tzibur died, you still bring the carbon. What about echad mi bezdin? If one of the bezdin who paskin that psak betos died, one of the dayanim, pturin, then they don't bring the carbon. To a parador, yes. So it's mantana. Who's this brisa that differentiates between a tzibur, one of the tzibur who died, that you still bring it, and one of the yonim of the bezdin who died and you don't bring it? Yeah, but Meir's opinion is parel davish al tzibur is only brought by bezdin, not by the tzibur. Therefore, hilkach meis echad min tzibur chayavin. It doesn't matter if one of the tzibur dies because the chayv is on bezdin. The hakoyim kulei bezdin. Lamaisa, the whole bezdin is still around, so they are the ones who mechuyev to bring the carbon. So if one of the tzibur dies, it doesn't matter. Meis echad mi bezdin pturin dav lechatas shemeis echad min hashutfin shemachi pturin. But if one of the dayanim died, that's a problem because the mayor holds the bezdin is mechuyev. So it's like chatas shemeis echad min hashutfin. If a chatas one of the shutfin died, avad you can't bring it because it's chatas shemeisa. Now, by the way, you'll never find a case, Rashi speaks out, you never find a case of chatas shel shutfin. You can't bring it, it can't be a shutfin and a chatas. If two people did an avera, they both have to bring their own chatas. Bring the chatas shel shutfin. So Rashi says there's no such a chetim of chatas shel shutfin. Only, for a lack of a better term, we call the chatas, the parel of davar shel tzibur of bezdin, a chatas shel shutfin, because it's not a tzibur. They're not called the kahal. They're not called the tzibur.
Who
The bezdin.
Bezdin.
We don't find
Why not?
that they're called the tzibur.
Okay.
Not they're not called the kahal. We don't find they're called the tzibur, and therefore they don't fall under the category of tzibur. So by default, we call it a chata shel shutfin, just to be moitzi. Like a mezumin is not a minyan, right? No, but a mezumin is an entity in and of itself.
Yeah.
Right. Shutfin by a chatas is never shaykh. You never have a shutfin of a chatas. It's just punkt. We use that term over here to make sure that you don't confuse it with tzibur. It's not a tzibur.
What's called a tzibur? What's the?
Huh?
You have the two chatos.
Yeah.
On Yom Kippur.
Yeah. Chatas Lashem. Yeah.
Right.
So Lashem.
That's the chatos with tzibur.
What?
That's for Klal Yisrael. For Klal Yisrael.
That's tzibur, right?
Right.
That's tzibur. Yeah, but you don't have a chata shel shutfin. What is shutfin? Shutfin just means it's not a tzibur. But we don't
what's
really
the
have such a concept
what's
ever.
The definition
of
of a
chata shel
tzibur?
shutfin.
What's the definition of a tzibur?
Tzibur is Klal Yisrael.
No, what? 10? What are we talking about?
No, well, that's a good question. With regard to karbanas, a tzibur is a shevet. A shevet, a roiv shevet, or it's
Depends on the context.
depends on the context. Yeah, it's not because you have a tzibur of 10 people.
Right,
it's a
right,
tzibur,
right, yeah.
Right. In terms of bringing one chatas for a population,
Right.
one as a whole for a population, you can only do it if in the Torah or in Chazal we refer to it as a tzibur.
But
But
the term
Bezdin, the
tzibur
Sanhedrin, is not referred to as a tzibur. Yeah, so Mamela, it's called shutfin. So the halacha of chatas shemesu ba'aleh, if one of the people dies in a tzibur, you could still bring the chatas. That's only by chatas shel tzibur, but not by chatas shel shutfin, which is why they are they're pturin. Bezdin will be potter if one of the dayanim died.
You know, it says here, Masechet Kiddushin, 10 יוחסין עלו מבבל.
Okay.
80 לבאר ישראל, חיילי גירי חורם על זרע נתיני שבקי והסופה. אוקיי?
Right.
אז אומר כאן רש"י, אומר, שעלו בני הגולה, ובגמרא מפרש לשמונה משפחות שבבבל, מיוחסות הן. אז זה החרש והמסגר, נשארו שם מיוחסים שופרא דשופרא. והפריש עזרא כל הפסולים משם, והוליכם עמו.
Got it.
הכהנים זה לא כהנים רגילים, זה חללים.
Wow.
חללים כהנים.
Is it daf? Is it daf? Is it daf? Which daf is this?
ס"ט. וחרורי, משוחררים, זה המשוחררים.
Beautiful.
נתיני, גבעונים שמענו בימי ישוע. את כל השטוקים והסופים מהשוק שהם לא יודעים אם יש להם הייתה...
הוא עשה קירוב
אז
גדול.
הוא אמר שזה הדרך לתקן אותם, אין דרך אחרת לתקן אותם. עכשיו מסתדר לי
צריכים
גם
לטהר אותם.
עכשיו מסתדר לי גם כן, שהחרש המסגר, כל המשפחות שלו נשארו בבבל, לא עלו. אז מי נשאר בירושלים? נשארו כל האחי פרחי.
Okay.
איזה בלגן הם עשו?
We're getting political.
אתה מבין מה נשאר?
I'm sure we'll find a way to bring in the Tziyonim.
הציונים נשארו שם.
That's why Ezra was compared.
It's funny because I'm a Yoeli and I'm not, but he's Sfardi and he brings it up. Yeah.
To Moshe Rabbeinu.
Huh?
Ezra was compared to Moshe Rabbeinu.
Ezra was compared to Moshe
Now I
Rabbeinu.
understand why.
Right.
Because he-
את הערב
Why? Why? Finish your thought? Why?
Why?
Because he could bring all these psulim from Klal Yisrael
Can bring him back,
and bring them back.
which is what Moshe Rabbeinu did to us. You're saying
Yeah,
every
that's-
time we were in
that's
the.
only way we could do that was with Moshe Rabbeinu.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
את כל הקומוניסטים, כל
Yeah.
הבולשיביקים,
All the.
כל הקומוניסטים, הבולשיביק.
Politics.
הבולשיביקס.
No,
היו בולשיביקס פעם גם.
Okay, בוא נגמור את הפרק. בוא נגמור את הפרק, yeah?
Okay, what?
Maskif lo Rav Yosef. We are right now. Let's see, where is this?
ברוך השם
On this side. It's 5 lines on the bottom of
Five
Vav
lines,
Medalef.
okay.
Maskif lo Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef asks the following kasha. V'nukma Rabbi Shimon. This Bryce again. You have to remember. The Bryce says that if one of the tzibur dies, you still bring the parallel davar shel tzibur. If one of the dayanim on the Sanhedrin die, you don't. That's the Bryce.
One more time. What? If you
If one of Klal Yisrael dies, one person in Klal Yisrael dies
Right.
after they did the Aveda,
Right.
this mistake based on the Psak of Bezdin,
Right.
you still bring the parallel davar shel tzibur.
Right.
If one of the dayanim who paskin the Shaila dies, then you don't.
Because
So Maskov Yosef, Reb Shimon. Let's say the Bryce is like Reb Shimon.
yeah.
And how are we going to explain it? The Omer Bezdin im Atzibur. Yeah, Bezdin brings a carbon im Atzibur. Meis echem Atzibur chayavin. The ain't Tzibur mesim. Yeah, Bezdin brings a carbon Tzibur. And if one of the Tzibur dies, you're still chayiv to bring a carbon. Why? The ain't Tzibur mesim. We said the svara is, Tzibur never dies. Tzibur is an entity on its
Entity
own,
by itself, right.
and it never could die. So Mamela, the din of chatas shemesu balel, that you have to let it die, this chatas, you can't bring it anymore, is not said with regard to a tzibur, because a tzibur can't die. So the Gemara says, perhaps that's why if one of Klal Yisrael dies in the Brisa, you still bring it, because ain't tzibur mesa. Right? It's Shimon's opinion. But a meis echad me bezdin pturin. But if one of the dayanim die, then you don't bring it anymore. You know why? Because the chata shutfeni. Because the chata shutfen, which means that they're not a tzibur. So if one of them die, right, Bezdin also has a chiyuv to bring it. Reb Shimon holds the tzibur brings theirs and Bezdin brings theirs. But since Bezdin doesn't have a din tzibur, so if one of the dayanim die, then we don't say ain't tzibur mesa. We say, oh my gosh, one of them died. You can't bring it. It's chata shemesu balel. It's one of them died. So the Gemara says, Rav Yosef wants to know, why do we have to be moikim the mission like Rabbi Meir? Say it's Reb Shimon, and I'll give you two gavaldige chedushim over here. Amarli Abaye. Now, don't forget, Abaye, many times in Shas, we know Abaye was a Talmud of Rav Yosef, but Rav Yosef forgot his learning. Yeah, and Abaye kept reminding him. Yeah, so a lot of times Abaye and Rav Yosef argue, there's it's not just the Rebbe Talmud, but it's also, it's sort of bordering contemporaries here. Omerle Abaye said to Rav Yosef, he said, Shaminen leil Rabbi Shimon, the Omar Chatas Shutfen Eina Mesa. What do you mean? Even by Chatas Shutfen, you could still bring it. Why would the Brisa says by Dayanim, if one of the Dayanim die, you can't bring it anymore. But according to Reb Shimon, even if it's not a tzibur, even Chatas Shutfen, you could still bring it. Eina Mesa. You don't have to let the Chatas die. You could still be makravit. The Tanya, where do we find this in Reb Shimon? The Tanya we learned in the Brisa, part of his soyer Shalem Kippurim. She'avdu, a part of his soyer that the Kohen brought on Yom Kippur to be mechaper for himself and his shevet. It says v'hifrish achayim tachteim. So that part of soyer got lost. Then you have to be makdish another part of a soyer, and you're a makravit. And after you're a makrav, the second pair, you found the first. So what do you do with the first pair? The yamusu kulan. So you have to let it die. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says, because it's a din of chatas sheniskapru ba'aleo ba'acheres. We'll see. A chatas that got lost. You brought a second one, and you makrav the second one, then you found the first one. That's a din of chatas sheniskapru ba'aleo kvar, and then you have to let it die. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Lozav, Rabbi Shimon, no, you don't have to let it die. This is different. Yiru, you let it graze until there's a mum, then you sell it, and you buy a korban nadava. Oilas nadava. Why? Why don't you have to let it die? Why isn't it subject to the same halacha as every other chatas? The answer is because they are a tzibur, and we know that ein chatas tzibur mesa. Now the truth is, they're not really a tzibur. The part of the surah of Yom Kippur, right? Who is it mechaper for? For the kahanim. The kahanim are not a tzibur. Kahanim is a small separate segment in Shevet Levi. So you can't call them a tzibur. It's not an entire Shevet. It's only separate. And yet, what does Reb Shimon say? Reb Shimon and Reb Loza say, even if it's not a tzibur, even if it's just shutfin, it's like a camaraderie, Right. That also has the halacha of ein chatas shutfin mesa, which means that in the dayanim, in the case of the Sanhedrin, if one of the dayanim would die, you could still bring it because ein chatas shutfin mesa. So that means that the Reb Shimon can't be the brisa. Amalei Rav Yosef, whoa, slow down. Rav Yosef Abaye, are you just telling me that kahanim are not called a tzibur? Kahanim lo ikra tzibur, they're shutfin, and that's why you want to bring a raya from here? Kahanim ka'amrit, shani kahanim the ikra kol. Kahanim are called the kol, they're called the tzibur. Tichsiv, because it says in the pasuk, al kahanim, val kol ama kol yichaper. It says that we are makish kahanim to amakol. Right, the Torah puts them in the same pasuk together to tell you that they are a kol. So Mamela could be that over there, Reb Shimon holds that you could still, you don't have to let the first part of the soyer that got lost and then found after there was a kapara, you don't have to let them die. You know why? Because this is a din of chatas tibur. A chatas tibur shemesu baler, sheniskapra baler. This is a chatas of a kol, of a tibur, not of shutfin. Okay, so you still don't know what he would hold by shutfin. Oh, Fredi Gemara, 1 second, slow down. Okay, we're up to Vavim at base top line. Slow down. If you really hold, Rav Yosef just rejected Abaye, says Kahanim are called a tzibur. Oh, Elomayata. They are called a tzibur. Nesu parbaira. If they're called their own tzibur, if Kahanim are considered their own kohol, so Ibazoi, they should be mechuyev to bring their own par helam davish al tzibur. So now you'll have 12 shvatim, Shevet Levi, plus the Kahanim, because Kahanim are their own kohol. So then, how many, according to Reb Shimon, how many parim would you bring? Shimon holds you have to, each Shevet brings plus Bezdin. So usually if 12 Shvatim do the Aveda, so you bring 13. 12 plus 1. Then now you bring 14.
Plus 1 for
the Kahanim. So the Gemara says, Tafalu Shvatim. And the Mishnah says, according to Reb Shimon, you bring 13. 12 of the Shvatim plus Bezdin. But according to this svara, that Shimon should hold, you have to bring 14 because kahanim are called the tzibur. Hello, Mervacha Yankov. No, they're not called. Shifta Shalevi lo yikra kol. Avada, the kahanim who are a chelik Shevet Levi are not called a kol. The chsiv. How do I know that they are? They're not called a kol. Yeah, because it says Hineni mafrecha v'besicha nasticha kal amim. Kol sheyesh le'achuza ikra kol v'kol she'en le'achuza le'ikra kol. Gavaldik. Over here, Yaakov Avinu, yeah, he says that Hashem promised him that I'm going to be mafrecha, I'm going to multiply you, I'm going to increase your besicha, unesaticha lekahal amim. And at that point, right? So at that point, Hashem also promised him the land of Eretz Yisrael.
It doesn't say like I'm going to make you as much as the stars.
Ah, no, it doesn't say it in that nevuah, but Hashem puts that together with giving him the land. He puts the kahal amim together with land, which means kol sheyesh lo achuza ikra kol, v'chol she'ein lo achuza lo ikra kol. Only someone in la machuza. So kahanim cannot be called a kol. So you see, they're not called a kol. Im Kain says the Gemara, but it's not just kahanim that don't have achuza. The whole Shevet Levi doesn't have an achuza. So if you're going to eliminate Shevet Levi from kol, that their shevet is not called a kol, now you're going to have a problem the other way around. Now you're going to be missing one of the shvatim. Chasru l'shnei mas shvatim. Reb Shimon says 12 shvatim bring each one their own part plus bezdin. But if you just eliminated shevet Levi because they don't have nachuzah, now you have only 11 plus bezdin. Huh?
Yes.
Oh!
Yes.
Omar Abaye.
Yes.
Haven't Abaye, Reb Shol. למדת את זה פעם? Omar Abaye. Ephraim and Menashe Keruah v'Shimon Yoli.
Yeah.
Abaye says, you're right. Really, Shevet Levi is not part of the 12. When Reb Shimon says that if all Klal Yisrael did the Aveira, they bring 12 Purim plus Bezdin, the 12 doesn't include Shevet Levi. They're not called the Tzibur. They're not called the Kol. Because they don't have an Achuzah. So who is the 12? Like Reb Shol said, Abaye is saying, Abaye was Mechavet Reb Shol. Ephraim and Menashe, Keruva v'Shimon Yuli. Ephraim and Menashe. Omar Rove, Zogt Rove v'Aksiv, Al Shem Achayim Yikoru B'Nachal Osam. Yeah, he said that they take a nachlo, they take their own nachlo in Eretz Yisrael, which means that when Yaakov Avinu said that Ephraim and Menashe are their own shvatim, each one is a separate shevet, that's only with regard to Nachalosam. Yeah? Lenachlo hukshu. When do we consider them a separate shevet? When it comes to take a chaluk in Eretz Yisrael, v'lo davar acher, but not to have to bring their own par, helam davar shel tzibur. So how could you tell me that each one brings their own par, helam davar shel tzibur, because their own shvatim? A Yaakov specified, they're only their own shvatim, each one is a separate shevet, only when it comes to Nachla. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? Only when it comes to Nachla? Abaya says, V'loi? V'chalukim bet golim. It's not just Nachla. It's also the Degolim. Right? Each one had their own degel. Yeah, in the Midbar. When they traveled in the Midbar, Ephraim had their own degel, Menashe had their own degel. Huh? Was there degel Yosef? Now you're going to embarrass my Amaratzis. Hold on. Is there degel Yosef? Anybody know? Ephraim and Menashe is under the banner of Yosef, no? That's what I would assume. Meaning Yosef plus Ephraim and Menashe.
Well, each of them maybe had the word Yosef, or just one.
Was there a banner? Okay. Yeah.
So how does okay?
We have to look into that. So the Gemara says, "Kenachalosan kach chaniyosan." Rava said, no, it's not a raya that since they were chalukin b'tegolim and chalukin b'nachalosan, that they're chalukin for everything. No, it's these two. Kenachalosan kach chaniyosan. Their chanoya in the midbar, their degel represented their nachalos. So Mamela was one and the same, and therefore you can't bring a raya. Nachon. So the Gemara says also another teretz. Yes, that's right. That's right. The way the Shvatim crowded around the Aron. Nachon. Nachon, אתה צודק 100%. 100%. ככה חז"ל אומרים, כן? כדי לך, another tshuva is, another teretz is, כדי לך לכבוד לדגולם. Yeah, the Dgolim were different. Yeah, they wanted to be. You wanted to give cover to the Dgolim. Gemara says, "I have a chalukim benasiyim." Abaye says, "No. Ephraim and Menashe were separate shvatim, not just with Nachalon, not just with Golim. They're also chalukim benasiyim. Yeah, by the by the Nesiim, when they brought karbonos by the Chanukas HaMishkan,
Yeah.
right, the 12 days, each one, Ephraim and Menashe, the Nasi of Ephraim brought his own carbon, and the
Wow.
Nasi of Menashe brought his own carbon.
Yeah.
So Mamela, even stuff that's not connected to Nachla Bachlal, they were considered separate Shvatim. So Zukta Abaye, so when it comes to Par Elam and Davashal Tzibor, they also each one brings their own par. So the Gemara says, no, that's also unique. Ahu, Lachloi Kovid L'Nasiyim. That's only to be Machli Kovid, to give cover to the Nasiim. The Tanya Shlomo Shiv Mechanika. Yeah, Shlomo did only 7 days of celebration by the Chanukas Beis Hamikdash. Umaro Moshe Lashnei Moshe Mechanika to the Mishkan. Why did he do 12 for the Mishkan? Because they lachli cover the Nasiim, not to be mezalzel in the cover of the Nasiim. So you see, that was a different svara. So Sav asked the Gemara, "My havi Allah." What's the bottom line?
אז רק אנחנו רוצים להוכיח פה שהמשנה זה כמו רבי שמעון?
Oh, so now the end of the day is, we have no idea. We have Machlokas Abaye and Rav Yosef. What would Reb Shimon hold by a chatos shel shutfin? Shemesu ba'aleho. He'im itkarev or meta. Yeah, that's the shayla. Abaye and Rav Yosef bedas Reb Shimon. Ze ha'sheila po. So the Gemara asks, "My havi Allah? What's taka?" Yeah, what's taka? The ma tachlis. The tachlis is Abaye says you could still be makrivit. Rav Yosef says you cannot. Yeah, which one is it? Where's the Toshima? Oh, yeah, but that's Rav Shimon. Toshima, I'll bring you right. The Tanya Rav Shimon, there are 5 chatois halach l'mashim that you have to let die. Can never be makriv vlad chatas, a vlad of a chatas, tmuras chatas. If you're maimer, if you put the kedusha of one of the chatas onto a behem shel chulin, that behem shel chulin becomes kodesh. It can never be makrivit. And chatas shemesu ba'alel, the chatas that the owner died, you have to let it die. The chatas sheneskapru ba'alel, or the chatas that the ba'alim had a kapar with a different behem because let's say it got lost and then they found it afterwards. The chatas over shnasi can only be makriv a carbon chatas if it's under a year old, and that's the type of chatas. V'yati yochaloimer vlat chatas betzibur she'ein tzibur mafrishen nekeva. V'yati yochaloimer tmuras chatas betzibur she'ein tmura betzibur. V'yati yochaloimer chatas meis balei betzibur she'ein tzibur meisim. Yeah, the first 3 cases of the Halacha Mishmah Sinai doesn't apply to tzibur. Yeah, why not? Because by a tzibur you never have a vlat chatas because you can't bring in a keva for a tzibur, right? You never have Tmura by a tzibur because it's a pasuk. It's only a yochad you can do tmura, not by a tzibur. And also chata shemesu ba'aleo by a tzibur ain't tzibur mesim. So in those 3 cases you never have it by a tzibur. So the Gemara says, now let's go back to Reb Shimon. What does Reb Shimon hold by chata shel shutfin? Sheneskapru ba'alev she'avr shnasa. The last 2 cases of neskapru ba'alev she'avr shnasa lo shamanu. We don't know if it applies to a tzibur or not. So the Gemara says, yochol yemusu. I would have thought that they die similar to Chatas Yachid, because you have to let them die. Omarta Yom Mitzasam and Amafurish. No, it says the Gemara, I learned Tzasam and Amafurish. Ma Matzinu Bavlat Chatas Tmuris Chatas Meis Baleo. Be Yachid Dvur Amur V'lei Betzibur. Just like the first 3 cases is only by Yachid, not by Tzibur. Afshan Eskapra Balev She'avrish Nasa Be Yachid Dvur Amurim V'lei Betzibur. It's not by a Tzibur, so therefore also Chatas Shal Shutfin is not said by a Tzibur. You could bring, like Abaye says, you could bring a chata shel shutfin shemesu ba'aleo, because we're learning sasam and amafurish that halacha doesn't apply to shutfin either. Okay, we'll stop over here. V'chidon and efshir mi'i efshir says the Gemara Reb Shimon b'chad makom gamer. We'll explain it tomorrow. Mirz Hashem. Hadron l'choyde bezdin, hadron l'choyde bezdin, hadron alach, hoyru bezdin. Excuse me for going over.